Mr. President, congratulations on being elected President of the General Assembly. It is with great pleasure to see a representative of our fellow small island developing state presiding over the 76th section of the United Nations General Assembly. For a small island state and low-lying coastal state like Belize, which 3 days ago celebrated 40 years of political independence, the world today is hostile and precarious. No one can deny that the planet is getting hotter. The facts are that July 2021 was the hottest month ever. Each of the last 4 decades have been successively warmer than any decade that preceded it since 1850. Global temperature is now 1.2 degrees warmer. Sea levels are rising. The fact is that global average sea level has risen faster since 1900 than over any preceding century in the last 3,000 years. Since 1900, droughts are unprecedented and have become more frequent and last longer. Severe weather events are more frequent and devastating. The last 20 years have seen the number of major floods more than double, while the incidence of storms grew from 1,457 to 2,034. Mother Nature is rebelling. She is reacting to our destructive tendencies and our refusal to take urgent corrective action. We can do better. And now, Mr. President, our capacity to survive is being tested by the unrelenting COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 brought the Belizean economy to its knees. Unemployment reached 30% as thousands of Belizeans lost their jobs. GDP declined by 14%. Our debt ballooned to 130% of GDP. Many small businesses were shuttered. The poverty rate increased to 60%. The impact of the pandemic has been swift, dramatic, and devastating. The human toll has been deadly. Already 399 Belizeans lost their lives to COVID-19. We have a fatality rate of 2.05%. Thousands have been hospitalized so far. Our health facilities are overwhelmed as they were unprepared for the surge in admission of critical patients. This is not unique to Belize. To confront the urgency of the pandemic, governments across the globe reallocated funds to meet desperate needs. Loans originally committed for development and climate change were diverted to cover emergency health needs and to mitigate the impact of the unemployed. Massive additional borrowings became the new normal as lockdowns were extended. The Common Framework and Debt Service Suspension Initiative failed to offer forbearance to most middle-income SIDS, including Belize, who are ineligible despite our debt unsustainability. At the same time, most of our countries had no recourse to concessionary financing to fund the immediate health response. Señor Presidente.
Mr. President, Belize's commitment to conservation is ambitious. We recognize that our debt is unsustainable, and we are going to tie it directly to conservation. We are going to exchange millions of dollars in debt for significant commitments to sea conservation. We hope that 30% of our exclusive economic zone will be designated a protected area before 2026, and that is far before the year 2030. Moreover, we will establish a Maritime Conservation Fund to be held in perpetuity. We will proudly stand at the forefront of work in this area, owing to our love for nature and our respect for the environment.
With the advent of the vaccine, government self-financed its acquisition from COVAX and concurrently reached out to bilateral partners to solicit vaccine donations. It was vaccines from our South-South partners which allowed government to roll out our national vaccination program. Mr. President, the immediate global response was slow and inadequate to the scale and depth of the health crisis. Disruption of supply chains made access to the much-needed COVID-19 therapeutics, diagnosis, and PPEs beyond the reach of many developing countries. Vaccine hoarding has reduced access to COVID-19 vaccines for developing countries, undermining COVAX and leading to deep and threatening inequalities. 80% of vaccines administered worldwide have been in high and upper middle income countries. Only 0.4% of doses have been administered in low income countries. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the region worst hit by the pandemic, only about a fifth of the population has received vaccines.
Despite the immoral inequities, countries that have higher vaccination rates are about to administer booster shots to their people, those people that are already vaccinated. That's not only unfair, it's quite simply ludicrous. There is no doubt that the world urgently needs to once again commit to multilateralism.
Exists today because of the multilateral system. The support of UN member states for Belize's territorial integrity and respect for our right to self-determination was critical to the achievement of Belize's independence. For us, the multilateral system is indispensable. For this reason, Belize supports the Secretary General's thoughtful and forward-looking Our Common Agenda, which sets out a concise plan of action to accelerate the implementation of our agreed goals, including Agenda 2030. Despite the inclination to retreat towards nationalist tendencies, the truth is that whether it is the health or climate crisis, the scale of the challenge, the magnitude of the impact, and the urgency of the action required cannot be met by any one country alone. Inequality and vulnerabilities are also a threat to the rich and strong. Therefore, our common future depends squarely on our solidarity, international cooperation, and a strong and effective multilateral system. We must commit to finding solutions together to the common problems that we confront. Unbridled unilateralism must yield to the settled determination to respond to the major problems of our times with social justice. My country is pursuing, along with Guatemala, the final and peaceful resolution of Guatemala's claim to Belizean territory at the International Court of Justice.